Hello friends. Today we're going to take a look at a new MMO that's in early alpha right now, I guess. It's called Project Gorgon. It's a rather ambitious project actually, to develop a 3D fantasy MMO for the PC, Mac, and Linux, where they mix ideas from older MMOs and newer MMOs to make a single game with a lot of the elements of games that you like. I've never seen this before, but somebody recommended it to me, so I thought we would check it out today. And you're going to go along with me for the ride. So the first thing we have to do the installation is go to projectgorgon.com. And up here there's a login button, and I'll go ahead and log out because I actually created an account so that we could play. But the first thing you should probably do is create an account, which is pretty simple. It says don't make an account if you already have an account in the game, just log in with your game account, but we're going to do it backwards because it's probably easier to type in all the information in the web page rather than in the client. So we've already done that. And now we need to go to the game drop down after we've confirmed our account and go to play now. So you have a choice of Windows Game Launcher or Mac Game Launcher. And since this game is in development currently, it's running with diagnostics on the client. So Windows users, be aware you have to have a 64-bit operating system, because with the buffers that it needs to run external diagnostics on what's going on about itself, requires 3 gig of RAM, and 32-bit OSs only give them 2. So that is going to be a concern if you don't have a 64-bit operating system to play the game. At this time, when it gets closer to release and they take some of the debug stuff out, it's going to be less, and they're going to optimize the RAM usage so they can run 32-bit OSs, hopefully. So I've already downloaded the Windows Game Client. You can see it right here. The Project Gorgon Launcher. Setup. And this is the folder that it extracts out to. There's a folder and a file in it. So we're going to run the Project Gorgon Launcher win. Let me drag this over into the screen. And patch notes, so it's still actively being developed. I'm not even sure what this MMO encompasses, but I've never been afraid to just dive right into most of them without any concern whatsoever. So one thing that I did note about this game that sounded very interesting was that they have an interesting concept of death penalties. If you're wandering around crafting and gathering and doing things like that, the death penalty is a drop and pop, where that you die and you pop back up at the spawn point, and no harm, no foul. But if you fight bosses, there's actually a death penalty where you can have all sorts of things happen. I found this actually very intriguing, and I really wanted to try it out because I'll tell you what, let's get this started downloading and I'll talk about it. One of the things bosses can do when they kill you is they can cause you to... I'll pull it up while it's downloading. Can't remember where I found it. I think it was under death penalties. Alright, looks like the bar is moving. Okay, so every MMO has a death penalty. There's just a term for what happens to your character when they're defeated in combat. Traditionally, MMOs either have a lenient penalty, i.e. nothing happens, or a punitive one, you lose a level of experience, or drop all your stuff, or all kinds of other things that we've seen. But one-size-fits-all penalty really isn't nuanced enough for an MMO, and here's why. And they go into the details of why. I'm not going to read them. If you're interested, believe me, it looks like you'll have plenty of time to read these wiki pages while your client downloads. And I'm really just going over this to pass time while it's doing that. So death penalty addresses all issues. Normally when you die, you simply respawn at a designated point in the area. No fuss, no muss, no other penalty. But when you fight designated boss monsters, indicated by a flashing warning screen before you arrive, the stakes go up. Boss monsters can do horrific things to your character, like transform them into a big spider or make them see ghosts, and these curses are permanent until you find a way to remove them. I actually think that's very cool. And it's not like you can wander into a boss monster. You actually have to know what you're getting into and agree to it. They also have hardcore mode so that you lose items, break. It looks like items break when you die. To fix them, you have to return to the location where they died. Otherwise, that item is useless junk forever, so you have to be careful. You can use no respawn mode where you simply can't respawn and you're just dead until somebody brings you a very rare resurrection item to bring you back to life. So that would be sad, I think. When we played Path of Exile, at least when you die, you drop down into standard mode if you're playing in a league, and if you're in hardcore, and you drop out of hardcore, but your character's still there. This way, you role play a corpse until somebody comes along and saves you. Since it says it's super dangerous, it's not recommended for players who prefer playing alone. There's also the concept that when you die, you gain death experience, which helps you learn the necromancy skill, among other things. As you become more nuanced in dying, you'll learn more secrets about the game. Sometimes when you reincarnate, you'll have temporary roleplay death penalty, where the game asks you to roleplay some psychological condition like fear of bridges or an inability to say the letter B. These death penalties don't have any effect in the game mechanics. It's up to you to roleplay them well. I kind of like that. I mean, I understand it's them imposing something on you to help you feel involved in the game, and hopefully most people who play it are game for giving it a shot. But that is kind of neat. Even if you get cursed into something horrible like a pig or a spider, all hope is not lost. Most curses have an upside. For instance, spiders can train to become formidable combatants with unique abilities. It's true that as a giant spider, you'll never be able to shop in town, and you can't wield a sword anymore, but you can spit webs and lay egg sacs. The yay. Each death penalty curse can be broken in several ways. First, you can go back and defeat the boss that did this to you. Second, you can usually create a rare potion, complete an obscure ritual, or hunt down a hidden scribe to get an alternate cure. Finding this alternate cure is up to you. So you can see there's a lot more depth to some of this game than others. Now, we're looking at the screenshots, and again, we're still just waiting for this to download, and I didn't feel like fast forwarding through it. The game is not tremendously visually stunning just yet. It's passable at this point. But it's not super cool. I mean, it's not going to blow your socks off. However, the game is still, that is not the best whatever that is I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure it's a cow, but a cow with armor. So maybe that's a mount of some kind. And you can see it's not bad. It's no Final Fantasy, but the images are basically, they look dated but very crisp. So it would be like if you took a game, okay, for example, you take Dark Age of Camelot. We just recently played that, and you did an HD refresh on it to increase the visual impact of scenery and such, without actually upgrading the graphical style. Pretty sure characters are, that is kind of a blobby wolf, and some of the scenery is kind of bleh. But it's got shadowing, and it's got a lot of different things that are a good foundation for them increasing the graphics later. It's got grass, but, you know, the grass looks clone, copy, paste, and twisted, basically. We'll see when we get in, but I do know they actually had intended at some point to increase the graphics. I thought there was a picture of a character. Yeah, there is. See, that's not horrible, but this is like EverQuest 2 caliber graphics. And that's probably the closest thing I would compare it to. They're okay, and you're not going to complain about playing them, but you're not going to tell your friends that they're the most awesome thing you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, that reminds me a lot of EverQuest 2. Which is okay. I actually liked EverQuest 2. But it had a lot of depth. It had a lot of other things. But it doesn't have the realism of something like Black Desert Online. But then again, Black Desert Online is a commercial game that has already been released. And this is a privately made MMO, which was created from a Kickstarter. So let's continue looking through the wiki because we got a little time. So half the skills come from your character, the other half comes from equipment. That's an interesting concept. It's usually, I see, like Guild Wars 2, all of your skills come from based on, well, okay, it's pretty similar. Most of your skills are based on the equipment you have equipped at the time, but there are some that are innate to your character regardless of what you have equipped. But we get unarmed, sword, mentalism, archery, battle, chemistry, using alchemical concoctions in the heat of battle, not for the faint of heart or particularly sane. His combat style specializes in area of effect type attacks. Must get costly, though, to have to bring all those flasks. Fire magic, necromancy, psychology, understanding the mind of sentient creatures, also using that knowledge in combat and other stressful situations. So you walk into the boss fight, and you walk up to the boss, and you tell everybody, stand back, I got this. And you Leroy Jenkins up to the boss and say, tell me about your mother. That would actually be pretty awesome. Staff. So, okay, there's a variety of weapon types. Basically, you get your sword, archery, staff, and very heavy magic, arcane style stuff. And I wonder if you can mix and match, so you can be like a fire archer or something. I've seen a couple games that have mixed those really well. So we'll see how that goes. And my primary thing is trade skills. I always like doing trade skills in games. So we get very specific trade skills, it looks like. And very numerous. And some of them actually probably be dropped, I'm guessing, because this is a little complex to maintain. And it's the same thing that the original EverQuest 2 had a problem with, was that you needed to have so much skill and so many other crafting classes to make anything that it was ridiculous because your recipe book was 10 miles long. And, armor patching, the ability to use repair kits to fix up your armor. So you can't use repair kits to fix your armor unless you have the armor patching skill. And you probably can't make armor unless you can patch armor. So blacksmithing and armor patching may go together. Carpentry, cooking, fishing. I always like fishing. Fishing in MMOs, I don't know why. It's always been one of my favorite things. It's my first crafting class to master in Ultima Online was fishing. Mining, mycology, something you don't hear every day and see in an MMO, the mastery of fungus in all its forms. Okay, so let's see how this works. There are a lot of non-combat skills in the game, like hundreds. I have a feeling they're going to end up trimming that back once they release. So I have a feeling people are going to be very overwhelmed by that. You can learn as many skills as you can get your hands on. Some are harder to find teachers for than others, so you can actually learn everything. As you begin the game, it's wise to learn every skill you can, but after you get the hang of things, you'll find that some skills are more expensive to raise than others. While every player can easily get level first aid, other skills like carpentry or tailoring become more and more expensive to learn. So after level 50 or so, you'll just want to pick just a few of those skills to focus on. So you can be a jack of all trades at the beginning of the game, but you don't try to do that forever. You'll find yourself spread too thin. At a high level, you want to get help from other players to fill in the trade skills you don't have. Now, see, that's going to set my OCD totally over the edge because I have this really bad habit of mastering everything. Final Fantasy XIV, I mastered every class and every trade skill. And I maxed them out. So, words of power. Randomly generated sentences of phonemes, for example, twin jot. I'm not even going to try to say those. They're gibberish, but not completely random letters, so you can kind of figure out how they would be pronounced. Really? To use the word of power, just type it into the chat window. When spoken aloud, the word's power is triggered and the word is used up, replaced with a new word. Words of power only ever work once. If you have a high lore skill, you can research words of power via the crafting system. When you attempt the research, you can choose items to sacrifice. The more valuable the sacrificed item, the bigger your chances of success. If the recipe works, you discover one of the current words. Good Lord, it's still downloading. Interesting. So there are 10,000 active words in the universe, and two players can have the same word. But once anybody uses a word of power, it stops being a word of power. I like that system. Not sure what they do. You gained a level in dying. That just cracks me up. I have got to try this. I have a feeling we're going to master dying. I'm a grandmaster dying. No, I don't color objects. I just don't play the game very well. So standard damage types: slashing, piercing, crushing, fire, cold, electricity, poison, trauma, psychic, acid, darkness, and nature. Okay. Now, the game does seem to have a significant amount of updates, and they just moved over to new forums, so the old forums are been set read-only, and it definitely, they've got videos and dungeons. And like I said, there was a patch that I looked at when I was looking through the install that was very current. It's from just a couple of days ago, so I don't remember exactly when. Early February of 2017. So, and now it's late February of 2017. So the devs are still involved, still being developed, and it still has a future at this point. Oh God, this isn't taking too long. And as you can see in the hotfix notes, early-ish February. Again, a couple days before. Level 70. Big patch. January. So it updates often. It looks extremely complex. Or probably it's one of those things that's designed to be as complex as you want to make it. Now, I remember for some of the games that I played, I had spreadsheets and formulas and all kinds of other things that I used to use for computing prices and off of materials used for crafting and damage tables against different types of resistances and things like that for everything. Star Wars Galaxies was a good example. I had spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet for stuff, and I took that game to the max as much as possible. I probably could have had just as much fun if I had just played the game. So I think this one is probably going to follow that same path where you could take it as deep. You can take the rabbit hole as deep as you want. Okay, so there's a cow boss without her boss warning screen. That won't be fixed until the next snapshot build. But I have a feeling this does have potential, looking at some of the stuff they have thrown out here that they've patched, to be extremely deep. Looks like mobs have a hearing range as well as a visual range. So you can't just run by, and because their hearing range may be higher than their sight range, so they may come investigate. Is what I'm guessing, based on the fact that it's a reduced hearing range. So that would be a cool concept. They can't see you, but they know something is there because they hear it, so they don't go looking specifically for you. They don't run right at you, but they investigate. But I do think we're going to try to do archery when we get in. This is probably the longest install video that I've ever done. But then again, we did just download 3 gig. And I've got some other things running in the background because I didn't anticipate having to download more client. But hey, since we downloaded it fresh from the installer, I don't know that we'll have to patch it because we're probably downloading from the repository. So that may speed up the process. I know some MMOs I've had to let them run for a while to patch. But my internet isn't that fast. So it's adequate, but not super, super fast. Unfortunately, I've got the highest speed you can get in my area, so there's not much I can do about it. It's one of the things that prevents me from playing some of the more competitive Dotas and things like that, is that I just don't have the throughput that I would like in order to be, competitive or ranked or any of that. So let's look at the options now that we've gotten in there. We can start in safe mode, special graphic options. What are special graphic options? I don't want to really screw with it too much. I'm going to press the play button so we can see what happens next. But I may have to silence the desktop audio first, in case it does play music. And it did. So I'm very glad I silenced it. Okay. So you can log in as a guest, or you can log in. So I guess you don't even have to create an account. All right. So it looks like we're all installed, and we're all ready and connected. So I'm going to end this install video here, and the next thing we'll see is probably the first opportunity I get to shut off the music. So be right back with you.